Ott? Jó.
Jó, és akkor...
Lehet, hogy már most is látják.
Jó, és akkor viszont másolnád a linket ennek a videónak a linkjét.
Oké, de addig ezt én leállítom itt, jó?
Ne. Ezt most már megy legalább.
Megy.
Neked már be is jött? Tehát, hogy a másik helyet jött be, vagy hogy?
Hú, nem.
Hello and welcome to the fourth installment of the OrthoGraph webinar series. My name is Zoltán Tóth. Today I'm joined by two of my colleagues, Julia Ercsei from the support department and Balázs Horváth, who you are going to see later on. He's working for the development department. Excuse us for the technical difficulties, but good thing that we managed eventually. What we are going to talk about today is that actually we are going to break the tradition. Instead of bringing in external guests to our show and make them talk about what they do with our application, we decided that now we are going to instead talk about what we do as a company, how we are developing the application, how we try to make your change from pen and paper to digital methods easier. And we are going to reveal some of the new exciting features that we are going to publish in a couple of days actually. A couple of information bits about this event. This is heavily going to rely on the questions that you have sent us before this event and the questions that you are going to send us during this event. As you have noticed, There's a chat bar on the right hand side of this webinar window where you can post your questions, any kind of things what you would like us to talk about. At the end, we are going to devote a separate section to talk about these issues what you raised. Notice that this event is being recorded, so keep that in mind. Your contribution is going to be stored for all eternity in our videos. So let's get to it. I'm going to start with the event by showing you what the application generally is and how it could make your work easier. You might know that we have been doing what we are doing since 2004, and even from the beginning our aim was one and only to make sure that you as a user who needs to do site sketches can do this in a very convenient and fast way. What we are trying to do is create a tool here which eliminates or rather minimizes user errors and something which ties nicely into what you're already doing. Let me show you what the OrthoGraph concept and the OrthoGraph tool can do to you to make your work easier and more accurate. So this, as we have told you a couple of times before, this is for documenting the built environment. Having said that, the way you use this application, you just use a tablet like this one and a laser distance meter like this, like a Disto-D2, and you just walk into the property what you want to survey. Just take a look around, see how many angles, how many walls you have there, and based on that, you just have to sketch a very simple drawing what you see there. You don't have to be accurate at all. The point here is to just have a very simple sketch that sort of represents what you're looking at. Because every sketching mistake what you have done can be adjusted. So the software tries to snap everything to 90 degrees and create straight walls, but that's something that you can amend that later on with measurements. Measurements is done like that. You just have to measure from one corner to the other, and now the software allows me to measure the length, the height, and the thickness of this wall segment. Let me start with the thickness here, the length here. Let's measure it up to 6 meters, and you see that the whole wall proportionately rescales. I mean, the whole drawing proportionately rescales. Additional measurements are going to measure that particular wall that you are working on. 2 meters here, let's say 1 meter there. And if you need, you can even measure a diagonal like that. And that would actually reveal the tiny discrepancies in the building. And if you have any change in the direction of the walls, this is how you can reveal that. Now, once you have the overall measurements of the drawing, you might need to put in doors and windows. And that's again a strong point of our application because you don't have to manually draw in all the door jambs and the wings. You just have to put them in as objects. So you just go to our object library and just tap on the wall where you want the door to appear and swipe your finger to the opening direction. There you go. Next thing you do, you just measure where the door is. And the next logical step would be to measure the door itself, but we are not stopping at 2D measurements. Not only the width can be measured, but also the height and the threshold of this element. Because everything you do in OrthoGraph exists in 3 dimensions. So everything you do has consequences in all dimensions, but you don't have to use it in 3D. You don't have to supply the height values, but you can if you are looking to get 3D data on site. Now, speaking of openings, one thing that I haven't showed you is the windows themselves. The only thing to point out here is that you can measure the sill height again. And this is something what comes up every now or then. Users sometimes do measurements in places which have 10 openings, doors and windows of the same size. You don't have to measure them all the time. You just have to, oh, I just managed to delete it. You just have to measure it once and just copy it as many times as you want. That way you don't have to do extra work for the very same element. Once you're done with one room, you can very easily draw your next room close to the first one. Obviously, this is the best way the easiest way to add extra elements. You just draw the next room close to the first one. There are other ways to tackle intricate details, but my colleague is going to cover that too. Now, my aim is just to give you a run through of the application. Now, most of you already have a laser distance meter, so it's worth talking about how this could make your work easier. Let's assume that we are sick and tired doing the legwork here, and we just want to measure this with a laser. Now, what we do, we just hook this device up to this laser. It works via Bluetooth and we see that it's connected. So once I highlight this wall, I'm not going to put in the numbers by hand. I'm just going to push the laser against the wall behind me and shine the laser dot to the other end of the office. And you see that the measured value, 3 meters, is on the screen. So everywhere in the software where you can see a number value, you can use the laser to supply that value. And when we developed this functionality, some of our users called our attention to the fact that if you are measuring a diagonal with a laser like that one, and you try to keep an eye on the laser dot and push the button at the same time, sometimes you are risking moving the laser dot. So for this, to sort of circumvent this problem, we decided that we allow users to measure things remotely. So once you highlight a measurement, you just hold the laser in your hand, tap on this button, and now you just tap on the screen. And the measurement imports directly. You don't have to touch the laser measurement taking button. You just tap on the screen and then the measurement imports. That way you again get more accurate and get more reliable. Now, once you are done with your work, again, there's a couple of other features that my colleague is going to talk about. I'm just going to show you the basics. One thing what you might want to know is how you get the information out of the system. Now we have a couple of export formats to tackle that problem. It doesn't matter if you're using CAD softwares or BIM softwares or other software or platform, or just use the application as a standalone. We try to cater for all needs. We have a DXF output, which creates a multi-layered CAD drawing. We have an image format, which is just a screenshot of what you have been doing. PDF would give you a room book, couple of pages with the floor plan plus on-site calculations. IFC is a bit more elaborate because that would give you 3D data on the building what you have measured, including the BIM parameters what you just supplied. ORT is our own file format, and the last one is an Excel sheet which gets you all the numbers, all the calculations. Two formats what I'm going to show you now is one of the DXF, because this is one of the most widespread solutions what our clients are using. Once you choose the export format what you want to get from the application, you can either email it, upload it to Dropbox or Google Drive, or you can open it locally if you have an application which can do that. At the moment I'm using AutoCAD A360, which is by default a free application you can download from the App Store to open up your DWG or DXF drawings, but it does a pretty good job opening up OrthoGraph drawings. That way you can check before you leave the scene if everything is alright with your drawing. A couple of things to point out here. We see that the drawing appeared the very same way I drew it. So all the walls are there, but I also see that the measurements what I have done are appearing as AutoCAD measurements. So if you have different units set up, or if you have different arrows or stars at the end of these leaders, then that's how it's going to appear. Also, every room exports with some locational information bits with the name, the two biggest measurements, the square meters, the area of the room, and the height of the walls. Also, if you have openings, you see that the openings data, including the sill height, would export as well. Now, again, that's DXF and that's a 2D export format. But if you are more apt to use BIM software such as ArchiCAD, Vectorworks, or Revit, then you can use another export format which is called IFC. Now, that's again something what I can open locally thanks to a neat little app called Tekla Field 3D. It just takes for a second to load up, and then after that you will see what we have just sketched. Again, this is a by default free application. Feel free to discover on your own. So what this does is that it shows the model what we just sketched. So 3D data again is here, including the openings and the walls. If you have changing wall thickness, that's there as well. Now, to sum up my part of the webinar here, I just wanted to show you how OrthoGraph can transform the way you work, because now you are not going to so if you're not sketching on pen and paper but on a digital method, then you see right away what you have sketched. That way you can realize if you made any mistakes, because our aim here, since 2004, is to limit the time that you have to spend on the scene, and that time includes the time when you have to go back to the scene to do additional measurements because you made a measurement mistake. But that wraps up my part. The next segment is going to be about my colleague here, Julia, who is going to talk about the support tools and the things that you can use to get to know the app. One thing that always comes up when the users approach us is that they want to know how long it would take for them to learn the app and what are the tips and tricks that can help them to get productive easily and faster. So, on to you.
So that's right, Zoltan. Hello, everybody. My name is Julia Ercsei, and as Zoltan mentioned, I'm going to show you the tips and tricks to use OrthoGraph 1 more effective. I'm going to show you the different support tools where you can turn to if you get stuck with something or you just want to get to know the program better. So first, I'm going to introduce you the knowledge base, where you can find different articles related to our program. We summed up these articles in main categories, which you can see in the top of the screen. General information includes every support-related stuff, for example, how you can get in touch with us, our terms and conditions, and so on. The tutorials includes many useful tips and tricks to get to know the program better. App functions include the explanation of the different functions in OrthoGraph, how you can add custom properties to the different elements in our program. And as Zoltan mentioned, we support laser distance meters and the list of the compatible devices, including the devices you're using, Android and Apple devices. All the lists can be found here. So let's have a closer look on the tutorials. Here you can find subcategories for further filtering. For example, if you're interested in the first step, how to start use OrthoGraph, we lead you to a basic tutorial with the help of these articles. So this is what an article basically looks like. There are a lot of pictures included for better understanding, and we also added a lot of video links for better understanding. So if you are only interested in these videos, then you can directly visit our YouTube channel. We have a lot of quite short but easy to follow videos here, where you can get to know better the functions of OrthoGraph, and we also have a basic tutorial walkthrough video. This is also a very good way to start using our program. So now I'm going to show you some tips and tricks to use our program more effective, and I'm going to answer the frequently asked questions of our users. So, as Zoltan have mentioned, a lot of you asked if it is possible with OrthoGraph to draw a bay window. Now I'm going to show you the best way to do this. So first, as Zoltan mentioned in the first part of this webinar, you just have to draw the approximate shape of a room. Then it comes to the measurements. First, it is the best to measure the walls in the room you're into. You don't have to be very accurate, as I have told you, because later on you can you can measure the details of the room with the help of the measuring tool. Okay, when you're coming to the bay window, first you have to measure the two sides of the bay window, as you can see it. And since you can measure diagonals with OrthoGraph, you can make this bay window to look like just as it looks like in the reality. So I'm going to add these diagonal values, as you can see, and this way the bay window becomes just perfectly as it looks like in the reality. Mm-hmm. You can also add windows to it. It is that easy. You just have to measure it from the corner points of the bay window to add the exact location of these windows. So it's that easy. Another question which...
And again, sorry to interject, you can again copy the windows. So if you have 3 windows of the same size, you can just copy to the other side.
That's right. So you just have to tap on the copy icon, as Zoltan has showed you before. Tap on the other side of the bay window, and the window with the same size appears also on the other side. So it's really easy and fast. The second question, which is also very oftenly asked by you, is that, okay, I'm now done with the first room, but how to move on to the next one? Which is the best way to merge the 2 rooms together? So when I have measured my first room, added also openings to it, just like it looks in the reality, I also measured this opening. Now you have 2 possibilities to move on to the next room. The first is to use the move location tool. This means that you have to tap on the circular menu of the room. Here you can find the move location tool, or you can reach the same icon here inside the drawing toolbar. Now you just have to drag the room, move it next to the first one, and the two rooms will snap together by their common opening. So now the other way to do this, you also have the possibility to draw only the missing walls of the second room. This way the second room will be connected to the first one, and now the question is how you can measure, how you can define the exact position of the walls perpendicular to the common wall, as you can see it. Since every measurement you make in OrthoGraph has a direction, you can easily do that by measuring the... So again, on the measuring tool, and you can make measurements from the endpoints of the openings to the corner points. So this way you can really easily define the exact location of the walls, as you can see.
So in this scenario, the door frame would be your common measured point. So you measure it from both sides, and that's how you would position things. That's good.
That's
good
right.
Solution.
So another easy tip or trick or a frequently asked question by you is that if a room I'm working on has the same wall thickness by all of the walls of it, then is there any way to change the wall thickness for all of the walls of the current location in one step, or do I have to do this separately? The answer is yes, I can do that. I just have to bring up the property sheet of the current room. Here I can find editable attributes of this room I'm working on. For example, floor level, base level, ceiling height, and also wall thickness. So if I change the wall thickness of the current room here and add a default value, then as you can see it, all of the walls of the room will change in just one step. So it's really fast. So, okay, I think, oh yes, and one more question you have asked before this webinar is that if I order a picture to an object, an element I placed in my room, where can I find this picture later on? Where can I bring up this picture? The answer to this question is that, as Zoltán have mentioned before, we also have a PDF export, which means this will be a room book. And every picture you take in OrthoGraph 1 will be appearing here in this PDF export. It makes your project, your floor plan more informative. But these pictures will be also saved in the gallery of the mobile device you're using. So they will be stored both of the places. So I think I have mentioned everything I wanted. So I'm dropping back the word to Zoltán.
Great. Thank you very much. So you summarized the things what usually come up. Obviously there would be tons of more questions, and again, as always, you are encouraged to ask those questions either here in this chat bar or by email or any other means that you need to use.
That's right.
Thank you very much. Over to Mr. Balázs Horváth, who's one of our developers, and he is very much in touch with the. Hi, nice of you joining us.
Thanks.
So he's very much in touch with what the clients need because he's the one who makes them from dreamed features to actual reality. So what he's going to do, but I think I'm going to give the word over to you. So
That's a great idea.
You're going to tell us what you are going to talk about.
Okay, so as Zoltán mentioned, I'm Balázs and I'm a software developer for OrthoGraph. First, let me just talk about our development process here at OrthoGraph. First, our priority is always the bugs, if there are any in the application. So if you send us any bug report or anything, we prioritize them and try to fix them as soon as possible. Secondly, the features. If many of you request the same feature or kind of the same feature, we review them, and if we see it as a really good feature, you may see that in the application soon enough or later. Depends on how difficult it is to implement. Okay, so I'm going to talk about three bigger features we implemented in the new version of the OrthoGraph. I believe it's out in the App Store by now, maybe today, tomorrow or the day after. But it's live in Google Play. So first we enable the measurements across rooms, which means you can measure any corner points from any other room. You just have to hold your finger 2 seconds on top of a corner point you want to measure, and you enter a value. And there you go. 6 meters will be transferred. It's good for either just checking the measurement values. So if you have 5 or 6 rooms next to each other and you want to check how long let's say, corridor is, you can measure that easily. Or if you have some wood shed in the background with a very not so thick wall, you can measure it how far it is from your main house, like this. And it activates another, let's say it's 8 meters, and it's gonna put it. Of course, the room wasn't measured, so it just
so now it just distorts. But
you can measure this little room, and it is going to be done. Okay,
so you said 2 seconds you have to hold from one room to the other.
On a corner point.
I'm thinking that maybe this could be useful if you have a zone within a room which has maybe another covering, or
yes,
you have a
like this. Nice that you mentioned.
So
like this. If you measure, let's say it can be anything, an object or anything you want to measure, and you want to place it exactly, this way, like that, and let's say it's 5.9 meters, 3.9 meters, and it's gonna put it there.
Okay, so it distorts the way it should be. That's good.
Yes. So since this is a new feature, you can try it out, and if you have any feedbacks about it, we are happy to hear it. So go for it. Another good feature, we implemented our own file extension called ORT. You can export this the same way as a DXF or IRC file format. You can upload to Google Drive, and you can import in as well in the application. Of course, this is the same project, so it's gonna open up the same one. Yes, the application is gonna open up yet again and gonna open the same project. But if you have 2 different devices, you can transport projects between them really easily, or just for backup purposes, basically anything you wanna use. This is a new feature as well, so try it out. We hope you are gonna like it.
That actually means, because we always say that one license can be used on 2 devices, and what that means is that you can use the software on your tablet and smartphone, so you can now transfer the files back and forth. Because obviously you have the export abilities, and that's fine, but if you want to keep different versions of the project, maybe you want to upload it to your cloud or save it to your computer. The point is that now the file, which is a raw OrthoGraph file, could be used on any devices what you have.
Basically, so if you have 2 devices, you can even log them simultaneously, and you can transfer the work in seconds. So if you have 2 people working on the same bigger building or something like this. The last feature is we support 2 new laser distance meters from Stabila, whatever you say it. The LD250 and the LD520, I believe. We support them fully, so you can enter manual measurements with this one, as Zoltán showed it before. And this is the LD520, and we support them. So try it out.
So these are the new devices, and now that means that now we work together with 3 manufacturers, like Geosystems, Bosch GmbH, and Stabila, and that makes altogether 10 laser distance meters that are supported, ranging from quite simple ones to more professional ones. So that means that you are not limited to so few devices. We have more and more coming.
Yes. So on to the. So do it, okay. So yet again, if you have any features or bugs to report, we are happy to hear it, and we are going to fix them or implement them as soon as we can. Basically, any question you have for me?
No, at this point, these are great things, because I think most of the user questions what we have regarding measuring objects within a room can be answered by this.
Yeah, so this is a really good feature to do that.
One object to the other, one room to the other, and I think that would also be relevant for landscapers and people who are measuring outside things, because now they can measure things in relation to each other, and that's a pretty good feature. They can triangulate with 2 measurements where things are,
exactly.
And then in AutoGraph or in any other software, they can snap different things to that position. That's a very strong feature. I love that. It's
Thanks.
great. Well, thank you very much. Thanks for joining into this part.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yes, no problem. You were quite close, actually. It's a next door office, so it wasn't a big deal. So now is the part where we look at the questions what we have on our YouTube channel. But if you could put it to small screen, I would see the. Thank you, Balázs. Can you put it to small screen so I could see what the questions are? Yeah. Okay, so I just have to move over here because my eyesight is preventing me from seeing this perfectly. So, okay, a question from LDX is if they can export the file to Vectorworks. Now, Vectorworks is a BIM software by default, so it can import two of our export formats, one being the DXF, which is a 2D vector-based drawing, and the other, and that's the best solution, is to use IFC, which is a 3D BIM platform. One huge advantage of the IFC platform, and that's something what we haven't mentioned that much here, is that the drawing is going to appear not as lines and symbols, but as building blocks, which might not seem to be a huge deal at this point, but if you realize that every single item in OrthoGraph can have properties what you can add, let's say notes on insulation, fire safety classification, whatever, these numbers and data fields could be retrieved in a BIM software such as Vectorworks. So that way, if you bump into something that you want to document, but you don't really know how you could do that, you have this data field to fill out, and that way you can retrieve that data to finish the job in CAD. Now, another question. Okay, if we can have live support if there's any question. Okay, now, as Julia showed you here, we have a support channel, and we have a support website, and we have a YouTube channel with dedicated videos. That's for those kind of scenarios when you can afford to wait. But obviously, during standard working hours, we can be called in our office, as you can see the contact details on the website. But we also host training sessions via Skype, which is a similar event what we are doing right now. Instead, giving you a generic show, it would be more focused on the actual questions that you have. So you could send us the questions beforehand, you could let us know what you are doing, and then it would be a personalized training. And also we have an integrated user base here, so the same concept as the same thing what Julia just showed you before, but the same content could be found here within the application. So if you have something what you're looking for, let's say things regarding corner points, then you can just find the relevant article here. So that way you can have on-site help. But obviously, if you have anything what you want to know, you can call us when you're on the field. One thing what I need to clarify at this point is that it's a frequently asked question: how long it takes to learn using OrthoGraph, how long it takes to master the things what Julia just showed you, the little tips and tricks. I would say that the first 2 or 3 surveys would be definitely slower than working on pen and paper, because it takes time to adjust to the new scenarios. But after a while, you are going to pick up speed with this, but don't forget that OrthoGraph might not necessarily be faster than pen and paper, but we are looking at the whole workflow from beginning to end, the end being redrawing everything in CAD. So that's one thing that you have to keep an eye on before you embark on adapting to OrthoGraph. That's something that you have to expect. If you are on the field and you can't really find what you're looking for here, you can tap on this envelope icon, and that actually sends us an email. Tapping on this envelope means that you haven't found what you're looking for, and that way you are sending us the raw file that you're working on. So if you bump into any kind of discrepancies, anything what you don't really understand, you can send this to us. We can open it and we can see what's wrong with the file itself. Now, let's see some other user questions. Okay, supporting feet and inches. That's something what obviously we had to do because we have a lot of clients from all around the world. So we decided to support feet and inches in different settings and different units. So, sorry, that's the language. So you can have feet and inches for different fractional settings. But we talked to a couple of companies which are doing measurements in metric, but sometimes they are switching back and forth between the metric and the imperial. And for that reason, every time you do a measurement, you can change the units here when you are working. So you don't have to go back and forth between the menu, just change the units whenever you want it. Obviously, you can change this to millimeters as well. Now, it's another frequently asked question: what happens with objects? We do have an object library, which is being developed like almost every day. We are adding new things to it because we are trying to cover as many as possible. But obviously, you're always going to find objects that are not in our library. But that's not really an issue because you can resize the objects what we have here. So if you want to put in, for instance, a column to this drawing, then you don't have to be satisfied with the measurements what we put in to this column. You can resize it to anything you want. So you can just tap on this thing and add additional sizes to it. And also don't forget that every single element here has properties what you can specify. So if you know that this object is not a column, but instead another structural element, you can specify that here, attach a picture, and then you can replace that in CAD with another relevant object. Okay, I'm just looking, but I think these were the questions what we had to cover at this point. Obviously, as always, if you have other questions, send them our way. Use our online tutorials and use our tools to get to know the software. Now comes the best part of the webinar, actually, as far as you are concerned, because as always, we are again running another promotion where you can win a package of an OrthoGraph 1 yearly subscription and the Leica Disto D2, the thing what I'm holding in my hand. Obviously not this one because it's full of fingerprints, but you are going to get a fresh one from the box. Now, in order to qualify for this game, you just have to fill up a questionnaire for which you are going to be sent a link after this session. The questionnaire is about things what you are doing with the app, what you want to do with the app, what kind of CAD software you are using, what kind of things you expect from our application. This is a very valuable feedback for us and especially for Balázs, who based on that he's going to develop the things what you will be looking for. Just to cut it short, whoever fills up this questionnaire enters a prize draw, and one of you is going to win this package of this very cool survey application and this very handy device. So that actually wraps up our 4th installment of our webinar series. For the next installment, we are probably revert back to the old format of inviting one of our users, but we decided that at this point, you would prefer to learn more about what we are doing and how we are managing things. That would give a more personalized feel to our company. And then you would know that every time you try the application or you send us an email, you would know who are going to answer that questions. If you can just ask the two of you just to come in here to say hi. So thank you, Julia and Balázs, for joining me in this event. And whenever you get in touch with me, you are going to work with them as well. Thank you for stopping by. Enjoy the application and fill out the questionnaire.